Hello there.
No, see,
See,
there you go.
see, we're started again. All good. Hey, Mrs. C and Foxface are here. Hi,
Oh dear.
everybody. All right, so sorry. Hello, welcome on in, everyone. I'm Adam of Geekheim. Today we're going to talk a little bit of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and we are joined with, holy shit, I pointed the right way, Bozz from the 8-bit community. I'm notoriously
Yeah.
bad for pointing in the proper direction, so that's why I was over there.
Have you ever seen me try and point to something in my background? It just never goes well.
Yeah, you're a smart streamer. You figured out that that's not your forte, and you stopped doing it. But
Pretty much.
me,
Oh, dear.
I keep batting, smashing my head against the wall. Anyway, so hello everyone. Hopefully, everyone has seen the awesomeness that is the entire season of Obi-Wan Kenobi, because there will be spoilers. Oh, here, hold on. I have this just to warn everyone that there's going to be spoilers about. I did.
Spoiler on the Falcon.
Yeah, there's the spoiler on the Falcon, the usual spoiler ones. We got Snoke and Mando, and also Tala from when that actress was in Game of Thrones. So we get all the different stuff. I like that
That's where she was from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw her, I was like, oh, I know her from somewhere. And finally I figured it out. And it's kind of cool that in this shot we have Oberyn as Mando up there, and his woman down there all in the same shot. So that was pretty good. Oh, I had all kind of notes as to how this was going to go. All right, so Bozz, I believe that everyone here is familiar with you, so I can dispense with the stuff. But just in case there's someone lurking, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am no longer a full-time Minecraft streamer, but a part of the 8-bit community. Stream on the weekends. I, again, predominantly play Minecraft with emphasis on just chatting during the streams, but I'm also I work in visual effects for a profession. I work in one of the largest visual effects vendors in the world. We do a lot of Disney stuff. We didn't actually do the Obi-Wan show, but we might be doing some stuff in the future. Again, we do a lot of Disney work, but they haven't given us the TV shows just yet, but fingers crossed. But I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I have watched all of it except the Clone Wars and Rebels, I believe. I've watched a couple of episodes of Clone Wars, but yeah, I'm looking forward to having this chat.
Awesome. Yeah, Clone Wars is a long series. I feel like there's lots of episodes in it. Rebels is like, even though Rebels ended up out to 5 seasons, the seasons feel a lot shorter. Like, I think that there's fewer episodes in each one.
How many seasons was Clone Wars?
I believe it was either 6 and then they've tacked on a 7th one just recently last year, or it was 7 and they tacked on an 8th one. One of those two. So it was pretty long, but they do a lot of interesting stuff, and I love watching the animation because they can do so much more in that, so much cheaper, so they're willing to go for it. And in certain respects, that's awesome because then you get to see a lot of different stuff. But then you have problems where you have people like the Grand Inquisitor introduced in Clone Wars and Rebels, and they're able to do so much more with the animation for them, and it's not that they can't translate that to the screen because he's supposed to be the same race as the really tall guys, the really tall species that were on the planet where Obi-Wan fought General Grievous. They're supposed to be that same species, so he was definitely much more regular human looking in this one, and so that was part of the some of the people that like to gripe. They jumped on there. And also, we got to say up at the top there, we don't think everything is perfect about Star Wars and all, so we will say things we don't like about it, but we're not going to sit here and just poo on the show either. And
all of our opinions are our own, of course.
Our own, and also are like backed up by something other than if we ask you why and you go yeah, hopefully. If not, we're being dumb and we don't. All right, so Bozz, why don't you, if you wanted to, give just your overall vibe on the show and overall feeling of the show now that it's all complete and you can look at it as a whole package?
as a whole package, I'm still massively disappointed with it. I can't remember the last time I looked forward to a show as much as Obi-Wan, and maybe that's part of the problem right there. Is I had it overhyped in my mind, so when I was watching it, it wasn't as great as I wanted it. But then again, managing expectation levels is quite important when it comes to shows like this, which we've been waiting for what, like 10 years, something crazy like that. But yeah, I was bitterly disappointed with the first 4 episodes, and the 5th episode, again, I'm sure we'll talk about individual episodes. The 5th episode was very, very good, and then the 6th episode was okay. So my opinion of it has been a little bit more positive because it ended on a high, but I still think the overall arc of the show was a disappointment.
Okay.
What about yourself?
Overall, I definitely liked it. I liked it, period. There were things about it, like you said, we'll talk about more individual episodes later, but I started off really liking a certain aspect of it. That was Obi-Wan's character, how they dove into how he was broken. And then it got a little bit after like around episodes 2 and 3 where I needed them to explain more to me about what was going on with Riva. That I knew that there had to be something there because I didn't think they would make such a character that was just like angry for no good reason. And I trusted the writers and the people that put the show together to have something for us at the end, and at the end they did. So overall, after getting through the whole thing, I was very pleased with the show because thankfully I was able to come into this one without like high expectations and like looking for anything specific out of the show.
Yeah.
And I'll be able to talk more in a second when we dive into episode 1 of why it started off on a much more positive aspects for me. Do you want me to dive right in and we'll go back to you? And we'll
do it. Please.
Right, cool. So, episode 1, hey, Danny Chaos, how's it going? There are going to be spoilers for the entirety of Obi-Wan Kenobi, so keep that in mind. See spoilers all over the place. Just don't, I really try not to spoil anyone, so, but by now, everyone should know that there's going to be that. So, episode 1 for me was really, really good because I connected with Obi-Wan and how they were portraying his character and how they were showing that he was a broken man and how he didn't seem to have any, like, essentially any will to live anymore. He was just working in a slaughterhouse, cutting up the sand whale, I think it was called, meat. And just he felt like me, like every day just going to the grind, just doing his thing, because everything that he had lived for and everything that he had done turned out for shit, and his best friend turned to evil, and he kind of felt responsible for so many people's deaths and the state of essentially everything now. Not solely responsible for that, but he was definitely a cog in there. So, and at the time I'm I'm going through life, and so I definitely connected with that aspect of him being broken, and so that really spoke to me personally. So that's why I started off on such a positive vibe for the show. And they did have, and when they introduced Riva, and then, like I kind of hinted at already, I knew that there had to be something else going on there because her character seemed a little bit too cartoonish at that point of just how angry she was, and there didn't seem to be much depth to what was going on with her. So that's so I guess we should do episodes 1 and 2 together since they aired at the same time and we watched them together.
True. Yeah.
Episode 2, I liked more because it gave us a little bit more Riva, and it started off the awesome interaction between Leia and Obi-Wan. And so I personally like that interaction because when every scene that Leia was in, I got my vibe of Molly out of that. Not quite as intelligent and everything, but definitely just as sassy and just as I'm going to do what I want.
Hmm.
And so that also helped with my personal connection with the show. Um, that's my general overall vibe for those first two ones and why it started off so positive for me.
Well, so episode, I agree with. I want to preface this with I enjoyed all of the characters. I think all of the characters were really well portrayed in terms of the actors' performance. I had no issue with that. I really liked episode one in the sense that, yes, they portrayed Obi-Wan as the broken man. I agree that it was done the best of their ability. The problem I had with episode one and the majority of the series was the episode length was just not there for me. I'll go into the whole plot holes business a little bit later, but from my understanding, and I don't know where I got this from, we were going to get an hour-long episode for each episode, and that just never materialized. So
Okay.
when the first episode finished, I was like, okay, this is great. And then episode two rolled around, and it was half an hour long, or like 35 minutes long in terms of the actual core material, not including intro, not including credits.
Yeah.
And I just thought, this isn't good that we've been waiting for this show for so long and there's so much story to tell. How can they possibly cram all the information we want as fans, or I want as fan, I shouldn't say we, I want as a fan into these short episodes? But I gave it wiggle room. I was excited. The first two episodes, episode one, like, yeah, we're going to plot holes now. I don't understand. I know this is canon as well. I don't understand. Maybe you can explain to me
Okay.
how Obi-Wan Kenobi does not know Darth Vader is alive.
Okay.
Or who Darth Vader is.
All right. I believe I can explain that reasonably. When I'm done with this explanation, though, I do want to go back and touch on your like what you wanted out of the show too. I meant to ask that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So Obi-Wan does indeed know that Anakin Skywalker is Darth Vader, because I went back and I watched that scene specifically. Like even in this show he knows, and because when she says like she says Darth has been looking for you, or Anakin, whichever way it went, the recognition was on his face, so he knew what that meant. So he definitely does know that Anakin is Darth Vader because they showed that in Clone Wars. How he could not know that he was still alive, I attribute to how much Obi-Wan has cut himself off from society. It wasn't just the Force that he cut himself off from. It was like everything aside from just making sure that Luke was okay, that there was no immediate threat to Luke there, and also that no, I'm sorry. That was all. That was his whole world right then, and there was nothing really else to him at that point. So he wouldn't have kept his ear to the ground about the universe as a whole, how things were going. And also, I do know that at the beginning, in the first sequence there, the Inquisitors come in, they go into the saloon, and the bar owner knew who the Inquisitors were.
Yeah.
And from what I think, now I'm not super well versed with the comics and everything, but I think that the Inquisitors were the face of hunting down the Jedi. And Darth Vader was like the man in the background of that, because he wasn't the one going around the universe hunting them down and everything. So it was the Inquisitors that people would gossip about. And if anyone did gossip with Obi-Wan at the meatpacking facility, they would have just talked about Inquisitors in general, and I don't think the name Darth Vader would have came up.
Really? I see, like, in 10 years, nobody mentioned Darth Vader. I mean, Tatooine is quite a specific planet because it wasn't under Empire control, but it was heavily monitored by it. So they obviously knew, they had regular trips by stormtroopers, they had regular trips by Inquisitors. I can't believe there was no propaganda out there, no rumor of this mythical, dark lord that wasn't talked about on a factory line.
All right. Okay, I can see where like, and that could be true, definitely. I'm just talking
Yeah,
out my ass too of theories.
yeah.
But I think those Inquisitors were given that role to be the big bad for the common folk. And I think Darth
Hmm.
Vader was used by the Emperor as his muscle man for people within the Empire to keep control of, like the people that helped him run the Empire. The other
Hmm.
Moths and the army and all those people would know about it, but I don't think that gossip gets out to just regular people quite so much, and definitely not to the level where it's going to filter down to Obi-Wan. I just think that he had his head in the sand about virtually everything, unless it
Yeah,
just came down to someone looking for Luke and keeping his ear out for
yeah.
Luke.
No, I get it. Again, it was something that took me out of. Again, I feel like they could have done that better. Like maybe given him a different job. You could have given him. And again, we're going to talk about a lot of alternative scripts here. I feel.
Yeah.
I feel like he had the sort of
Oh,
horse pet
I'm
camel
sorry.
thing.
I gotta say hi to
Give it,
Misty.
give him,
Hi, Misty.
give,
Sorry.
give him a job where he's shoveling the poop out of those facilities, where he's not around people as regularly and a quantity of people which would be chattering. Again, I feel like, and this bumps me on to episode 2. I was really excited to see Leia at first, but then I thought to myself, wait, where are they going with this? And as soon as the realization hit that Leia was going to play a big role in getting Obi-Wan off of Tatooine, I just, my head spiraled and I thought, there's okay, fine, but there's so many better ways of getting him off, so many simpler ways of getting him off Tatooine to begin the story.
All right. Let's take a step back for a second and talk about what you came into the show wanting, like what you.
Okay, I wanted Obi-Wan being the broken man, which we got. I wanted Obi-Wan to have something happen to get him off the planet and then interacting with Darth Vader, which we got. I wanted more dialogue between him and Vader, which we got, to be fair, in episode 6. I wanted less story around other characters and it to be solely focused, especially when the first 2 episodes were so short. Less about other characters, all about these characters. And I understand, I guess why they brought in Reva so much, because she was the catalyst to the middle character between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. But there were just some awful filler moments throughout the series which had nothing to do with what the show should have been about, which is purely Obi-Wan and Darth Vader and Obi-Wan's journey. That it wasn't his fault that he created Darth Vader, and a little bit more information about Darth Vader, I guess. So that's
Well,
what I was hoping for. And again, we got a lot of that, but I just felt like it wasn't done in a story which was very smooth and there was a lot of chaos in it. And I just, yeah.
all right. Well, I TV shows always have like an A plot and a B plot to
Hmm.
them. So I took all the Obi-Wan Darth Vader stuff as the A plot, and the B plot was everything that went on with Reva, essentially
Yeah.
through the show. And so I think it was good. It's definitely one of the big complaints I always hear about the Star Wars universe is everything always focuses on the Skywalker family all the time.
Hmm.
And just about everything out there, aside from the Mandalorian, up until the end of season 2, it was Skywalker free. So that was some of the thing that a lot of the people like, that they wanted to get away from that. So I can see them introducing a new character entirely and following her stuff a little bit. But I don't know. I still felt that a lot of it still centered on Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it definitely did it hit the point, some of the points, all the points that you mentioned. I don't know if it must not hit them enough for you.
Mm.
But uh, yeah. So I don't know.
What were you hoping for when you before it started?
Um, I there wasn't much that I really came in with preconceived notions for. I knew that Riva was going to be a character dealing with it, and
Hmm.
because like they gave her a prominent spot in all the previews and teasers and everything. So I
Yeah.
thought it was going to be more about Obi-Wan against Riva throughout the show. And at the very end, we get a little bit of Darth Vader. But then they started talking so much about how Hayden Christensen was coming back, and like that, all that press seemed to happen near the end. So I guess that I had already taken out all my desire to see too much of Darth Vader in it, and so that's why like none of that really bothered me. um I was pleased with the with what we got out of Darth Vader. Of course, personally, I want a Darth Vader series, because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that guy, and I think that there's definitely enough material there for them to be able to pull from, to have years and years of shows about that. So I understand that as a whole, they got to cut things somewhere at some point. Now I can understand you're talking about the episode length, and the main thing I want is out of a whole series like this is I want a story that makes sense for what they have, and like not filler stuff, and not going too far in one direction. And so I don't mind shorter episodes, if that's what it is. And also, everything that I've heard was that this series came about because someone had the idea for a movie and had the like this essential plot for this in movie form. So a lot of the stuff to get it to a series length, because they were like pulling back on movies real bad after how um, the seventh movie and Solo did. They pulled back on movies a lot, and they were like, "No, we're not doing that kind. We're not spending that kind of money for stuff."
Yeah.
So then they like shoved in some other stuff. I can't really tell exactly what they shoved in, um, because it all felt to me it felt like a story. Now you were complaining, mentioning about the like parts of it didn't need to be there. What parts did you feel did they do that you don't think they needed?
Well, if we're talking about like episode 1 and 2, the chase scene with Leia was, I think, silly. You have a grown alien chasing a toddler essentially, and you going through bushes and whatnot, which I just felt like that. And that, like, also in episode 3, we have the force running with Reva on top of the rooftops. Um,
That
Again,
was
I
two,
don't
right?
mind filler content,
Yeah.
but I don't like when an episode is so short as is. You shouldn't need it, kind of thing. Like we shouldn't need a chase scene through a forest to capture a little girl. I have a question for you. What did you think when we first saw Leia? Were you surprised? And
Yeah.
did you think, where is this going to go with the content? Where's she playing the story?
Yeah, when we first saw her, I didn't know that she was going to be a part of the show at all. Like it was
Yeah,
a total surprise to me. And then they did the switcheroo with us, with it really being an alien handmaiden of hers at
yeah.
first, so that was funny. But yeah, as soon as they showed her, I didn't know what was up, thankfully. And for one of the few times my brain was able to not try and instantly figure out like where are they going
Mm.
with this? What's going on? Um and I think to a degree of that is because like I knew that she couldn't have played too important of a story here. Um, at least at that stage, I didn't think she would, because well, because a we know that she lives, and
Yeah.
just that they didn't show much in the fourth movie that they knew each other, even though they technically never interacted. Um, but also like certain aspects like that, I'm willing to go sideways on. But I do agree with one part. The chase through the forest was definitely poorly executed.
Yeah.
Like they were running at like 1/4 speed, and she was running all.
Yeah.
But I mean, how long was that chase scene? It if they had better executed that chase scene, like it didn't seem like they were half-hearting it in there just to have a chase scene. If it had been better
Hmm.
executed, I would have been fine with it. But so I guess maybe when Flea was there, seeing Flea kind of pulled me out of it too. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so that was a little bit jarring there. Anyway, so maybe I didn't mind the chase scene so much because I was still mentally recovering from that aspect of things. But yeah, maybe if they had just had the two other guys come up and just snatch her right then, you would have been happier with that.
Well, I just feel like in the edit, when you're looking at that and it doesn't really work,
Hmm.
that's when you seriously need to reconsider if it should be in it. And I felt like they probably thought to themselves, one, either it looks fine, which of course it didn't, or two, we don't have enough content for this episode to fill that extra 2-3 minutes. Um, Again, like I just snatch her up and that's the end of it.
Yeah,
But
with your job, do you do any editing or like editing like this? Like, would it be your job to edit that part out, or
no,
you're
no.
more
What I
effects?
would do would be, so essentially the edit is already finished. It changes a lot, as I'm sure you can imagine, during when we're doing the visual effects. But I essentially get the footage that the official editors have sent to us. I organize it. I put it in timelines. I send it to artists. They do their work. Um, they put the visual effects on it. I put it back into a timeline, and then I send it off back to the clients. Essentially, but I do see, you see everything that they give us, basically.
Okay.
Um, but it doesn't really have a creative role to it in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
Um,
See, I
but
definitely think that you have a more critical eye when it comes to this kind of stuff, just because you're so used to seeing, like you're still on that side of the process of it, and
yeah, I
also,
try and disconnect from it in that way. That's what you got to do when you're in the profession, or else you're not going to enjoy anything. And you
yeah,
try not to be too critical of stuff you don't like. Um, but when you see like silly chase scenes like that, and again, I was the only one who thought it was silly.
yeah, yeah.
So
I thought that chasing was silly too.
again, it's a small thing, but these small things did add up for me, especially in the earlier episodes, which were like, oh, okay, fine. But I'm also a grumpy soul because these episodes are so short and I want them to be longer. I just wanted long episodes that had full of content kind of thing. I have been so excited for this show and they're giving us half an hour at a weekly release. I know the first two episodes were connected, but still it didn't do it for me. But
I
again, though, I loved Leia. I loved the actress. I thought she smashed it.
Yeah.
The critiques that she was getting are completely unfair. I thought she was brilliant. Again, I loved all the characters. I thought it was really well casted in that respect.
One thing I do want to mention, though, you mentioned the rooftop running scene across.
Episode 3, wasn't it?
There was two. You talk about Riva chasing him. Uh,
No, I'm talking about Reaver on top of in the city, whatever the
yeah,
city was. Was that episode 2?
yeah. I thought two was them on Dayu that whole time. That well, all right. Wherever it was, we're definitely both talking
Yeah,
about the chase scene on the roof and where
yeah,
she's doing parkour across. I
yeah.
kind of liked because I feel that they were trying to show because the force can also affect people's physical abilities in that and
Hmm.
let them jump higher, run faster, and all that kind of stuff. I do agree that that wasn't executed too well, like showing that she was using the force abilities there. It just kind of looked like she was doing extra super good parkour. But I'm glad
Yeah.
that they went back to try and do that again in the live action stuff because I don't. They definitely didn't do it very well in episode one. Right near the beginning, when Qui-Gon is cutting through the bulkhead and the destroyer droids show up and they run away, that
Yeah.
was horrible CGI of them just going jink. And another aspect of harkening back to Clone Wars, they are able to, in the animation, do a really good job with Ahsoka being able to leap and jump around
Hmm.
and do things, enhancing her movements with the Force. That I'm glad that they went back to it here. We got a little bit of that with Ahsoka in Mandalorian, so and we have a whole series of Ahsoka coming up. So hopefully they can do it better there. But I'm glad that they went back and they tried to do a little bit more
No,
Force
you're right. It
related
was
stuff.
episode 2, wasn't it, as well? So I
Yeah, but
just remember what happened in episode 3. Um,
now I can't remember what happened in episode 3. You mentioned that, and I was like, well, what's the next step? Because I know that she gets stolen in episode 3, and she's at the fortress. Do they go in
well,
the
episode 3 is no, that was episode 4, I believe, wasn't it? Because episode 3 was when we first see Darth Vader.
Yeah,
Because
but I know
we finished on we finished on episode 2 with the close up of Darth Vader in the tank,
Yeah,
and then in episode 3 we get our first Obi-Wan and Darth Vader face off.
yeah, yeah, and how they ended episode 2. Another reason why I was forgiving of them for not letting Obi-Wan know that Darth Vader was still alive is because you had to have that moment of realization for that character on screen. And so,
Hmm.
whether or not they did the whole series different and they started off like closer to the end of episode 3 of the movies, and you got that reveal, but you can't have that reveal of Obi-Wan knowing that Vader's still alive
Yeah.
without showing
Oh,
it.
I get the purpose of it, and don't get me wrong, they played it well when he has the realization that Darth Vader and Anakin is still alive, and not only alive but also hunting him currently. But it's just I felt like there's no way he could not have known. Like it was more the fact that I'm happy with he didn't know. I just didn't like the environment that he was in because I feel like he would have found out naturally. So it's just a little nitpicking at where Obi-Wan was essentially working or how involved Obi-Wan. I know you said he was disconnected, but how disconnected was he when he's working a factory line with a bunch of people chatting all day? Like, yeah, that's the only thing I would have changed during the early episodes or like episode 1 specifically, is what job he was working, because he wasn't disconnected. He was in. There's no way he couldn't have heard about. And I take your point about maybe they were hiding Darth Vader and Darth Vader wasn't a well-known figure, but I still think there would have been rumblings.
Yeah, and that's definitely possible. I would think it would be more probable that he would have heard it before 10 years were up, but
Hmm.
I can see that. And when Obi-Wan didn't come to the defense of that guy that got shortchanged on his pay for the day, that made me think
Yeah.
that he doesn't have a lot to do with these people that he works with at all.
Yeah. True.
Like
True.
that he just
point.
keeps his nose down and everything. All right, so we did 1 and 2 enough, I
I
think.
thought
Right?
one more thing on episode 2
Sure.
is how they got Obi-Wan off the planet, where Leia's father contacts him and says, "Hey, Leia has been taken. You're the only person I trust." I can't think of a bigger plot hole in the series where the father is more concerned with people or Vader and the Inquisitors discovering the children and who the children are than sending Obi-Wan Kenobi after the child. Instead of, you're a senator of a planet, why don't you have an army to go acquire the child back? Isn't that the most suspicious thing? To send Obi-Wan Kenobi out of hiding for 10 years to go look for a child?
Well, yeah, it's definitely not great if he gets caught, but if no,
But he
yes,
did.
I agree. Well, yeah, and he gets exposed like that, and yes, that definitely wasn't good. And now Vader knows for sure that he's still alive. Although I still feel like Vader, like, and also another thing going back to Obi-Wan should have known Vader was still alive. They should have still had enough of a Force connection that
Mm.
that was. But maybe they tried to demonstrate how much Obi-Wan severed himself from the Force,
Yeah, from the
and that's why
Force as
that.
well.
But yeah, about the only thing I can think of is that sending out an army after her would definitely create a lot of people call it churn, and a lot of people talking about the Princess of Alderaan got kidnapped and their army went scouring all the local planets to try and find them. Whereas we know that the Jedi in the past, they're used to going and doing things themselves and doing it quietly and getting stuff done. And so maybe that's what he was shooting for. And
Yeah.
he probably thought that he had a better chance of getting her back if Obi-Wan went to look for them than their army, because I mean that his personal guards weren't any good, and we saw that in the
True.
in the thing there. But I know being a father, I would rather have, if Obi-Wan Kenobi was at his peak, I would rather have Obi-Wan
Mhm.
Kenobi looking for my daughter than an army of Aldarians.
But I'm just saying that the potential for suspicion is way higher
Yeah.
than getting Obi-Wan and getting Vader aware that Obi-Wan is tracking a child for some very specific reason, um, than kicking up a fuss. I really do. But again, I understand why they did it, because they needed to get Obi-Wan off the planet. But if it was me, it could have just been as simple as, the Inquisitors are on the planet, they're on Tatooine for Episode 1. They interact with Owen. Potentially, they could have, assessed that Obi-Wan Kenobi might have been on the planet, and in order for him to cause a distraction, Obi-Wan goes off planet, causes a distraction somewhere else, so they all leave. Again, I feel like it could have been as easy as that, rather than we need Leia to get kidnapped and go down that route.
Okay. Uh, yeah. But then if Obi-Wan is connected to Tatooine at all, and I'm Darth
Mm-hmm.
Vader, I'm wondering why he chose my homeworld to go to and hang out on.
Yeah.
And I would also every so often be looking for him more often there
Yeah.
than not. So in a way, it was kind of better that he got exposed being somewhere else.
Mm.
And it was lucky that Riva was the only one that connected everything together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there, there's always a different way to do things,
Oh,
and
100%. And
yeah,
I
yeah,
try and not get too bogged down in that, like, oh, what could they have done differently? I'm just feeling the route that they took, to me, was so obvious that it would have caused suspicion in
okay.
some way for Vader's mind. Like, did Vader at any stage wonder to himself, well, how did Reva actually find Obi-Wan? You know, and Reva specifically took Leia, or hired the people to take Leia, and
Right.
and she had some hunch that he had some connection with the father, and yeah, I just feel like it was all too convenient.
Well, yeah, but none of that would connect Obi-Wan back to anything dealing with Tatooine. So you're just worried about the connection to Obi-Wan at all and sending Obi-Wan with
Yeah,
that.
essentially.
Yeah. What I wish they would have done was somehow demonstrate that this was like the fourth thing or fifth thing that Reva tried to flush Obi-Wan out.
Yes.
And
Yes,
then that also
100%.
would have benefited you because they could have had another 10 minutes in one of the other episodes
Like,
to
she
do it.
was shooting in the dark at ways to find Obi-Wan.
Yeah. And also that would have benefited me because I really feel that they stumbled not giving all right, from my perspective, I don't mind that it took the whole series to find out about Riva. But so many other
Mm,
people nowadays, they need to know everything as soon as it happens. And like as soon as Riva's on screen, they want a little pop-up bubble that gives her whole history and everything so they know what she's about. They could have like split the difference and let us know a little bit more, like give us some kind of better hint what Reva was up to beyond just the fact that she's pissed off and wants Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's
the I figured it out episode 1 because they showed Order 66. Like, there was a reason why they showed Order 66 as the first shot for the first, sequence.
You knew that was her in
me...
that shot right from the
yeah.
From the
I mean, who else could it have been, right?
It could have been any other.
The fact that they focused on the kids, I instantly thought one of these kids has got to be Reva, and she saw Anakin killing people, and she's somehow playing the long game. Every shot meant something there. The fact that we didn't get any context to it as well, like we didn't see at all Hayden Christensen as Anakin battling away. It just thought to myself, they're showing us this for a reason, and they're a bunch of kids, and it would make sense that Reva would be that age at that time.
Yeah, well, good on you for picking that up, because it took me till after watching all that and going back and like rewatching it again to have that inkling and all. I definitely didn't put that together, and a lot of people aren't going to put that together right away.
True. True.
So all those people and us were like wanting a little bit more of a hint. But you're right that they did show that, and like on shows like this, maybe they do. But I mean, granted, one thing that didn't make me go there immediately is that they seem to love making different versions of Order 66 and showing us Jedi getting killed and younglings getting killed, because
you're right.
Just about every series they love doing that. I mean, when
so, sorry, keep going.
I was just gonna add on that when they had to show us Grogu's version of Order 66, that's when I was like, come on, we don't need
we didn't need that.
He didn't need to see that. We don't need to know that he saw that. That just could have been gone. And I just want to say hey to Weverwolf also in chat, and Misty before. Sorry, I haven't been doing a great job with the chat because we've been so intense. Anyway, so you had something?
Well, episode 3. We got the first real glimpse of Darth Vader, and we had the first interaction. How did you find that?
Yeah, who did he interact with first?
So he was episode 2. What did you think about Reva killing the Grand Inquisitor? As somebody who had watched Rebels and Clone Wars and knew that didn't happen in canon.
Yeah, well, I didn't worry about it too much because I didn't think that he was dead, because I've also seen Clone Wars and Rebels, and I know that Darth Maul got cut in half and he still lived.
Sure.
And also I run in deep enough Star Wars circles that like I heard people talking and saying that his race has 2 stomachs anyway. Yeah. So him getting stabbed in the stomach wasn't all that big of a deal. I was surprised that they didn't make more of a deal about it, but she must have sold either she sold it well enough that Obi-Wan did it, or B, Darth Vader knew all along. Obviously, we know that Darth Vader knew all along. So that's where that was. But yeah, I wasn't too worried about that because I knew they wouldn't break canon that hard.
Okay, that's interesting, because I think a lot of people were worried that they were going to break canon that hard.
Yeah, they were, and I have enough faith in them that they're not going to do something like that. Making it a little bit more difficult to explain things like Leia not seeming to know Obi-Wan well enough. That kind of stuff, I can understand them doing, having a little bit of play with, whatever. But just killing off a character that was prominent in animated canon circles.
True. But episode 3, so we get our first glimpse of Darth Vader. He's walking through the town. He's snapping kids' necks.
That was at the end of episode 3. Yeah, okay. So that sequence. Oh yeah, all right, and the whole sequence there. I don't know why all the episodes are bumbling around in my head.
Together.
But yeah, so can I take a step back before that chronologically?
Yeah, go for it.
in there. Another thing, how we were saying how much I connected with personally with Obi-Wan and being broken. That discussion between Leia and Obi-Wan in the back of the transport that they had
Mm,
when she looked up at him and asked him if he was her father. I had to pause it, and that was emotional damage. I need that
yeah.
emotional damage sound playing in my head because that whole sequence of them talking there, that was really awesome and
Hmm.
moving to me. And so I feel like I connected with the show a lot more on that aspect beyond aside from the combat and the problem the stuff between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan with that. So maybe since
Yeah.
that filled the hole for me, that was better. But okay, jumping back, yeah, Darth Vader going through the town there and snapping that kid's neck. Boy, oh boy, that's one way to drive Obi-Wan out into the open, isn't
Set
it?
a precedent.
Yeah, yeah, and it definitely shows you how badass and uncaring this version of Darth Vader is. And
Hmm.
yeah, how about you? How'd you like
Well,
that part?
well, going back to what you said about, I love the dialogue between
I'm
Obi-Wan and
sorry.
Leia. I thought that was really good. Um, I also liked how they had that conversation and they tied in the first glimpse of Hayden Christensen as, in the Jedi robes in the
Yeah,
desert. I thought that was really a nice touch because if you think someone's dead and then you find out they're not, and the trauma of that, you're definitely going to be seeing something.
yeah,
So I thought that was a nice little touch. I thought it was silly how the whole stopping at the checkpoint and then the stormtroopers get killed and the fact that they couldn't walk around the fence. But that's just it is what
yeah.
it is.
That not walking around the
Um,
fence, that was bad, and they especially made it worse when they went up to that upper shot. Because
yeah,
when they
it's
had the
like,
lower shots, it could have been like, ah, well, maybe those rocks butt right up against that, but no.
well, of course, that's visual effects, and what they should have done there is just expanded out the checkpoint, right? That
Yeah,
was
have
something
it.
that was completely overlooked,
Yeah.
clearly. But yeah, I mean, I'll forgive them for that. It's just silly little mistakes. But so I thought, the introduction of Darth Vader, I was interested to see that happen so early. That it was episode 3 and we're already getting the standoff. Like looking back to it now, I think it was probably the best move. Um, I think I mentioned this to you when it happened, or like during the episode, that I was massively disappointed and let down between the first interaction of Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. I thought it was just too blunt, too short, and I understand the fact that Darth Vader was playing with Obi-Wan to an extent, but just how he just escapes like that, and the fact that that the fire is there, he pulls him through the fire, he wants him to suffer. I get it, but there wasn't any major dialogue to speak of during that, and they also just came out with the most cliche lines, which is like, "You should have killed me while you had the chance." It's like I don't think Vader would have said that.
You don't think he would have said that?
I don't think he would have said that. I think he would have, especially after just snapping people's necks, I think he would have been a little bit more
I feel like that was him.
forceful.
Yeah, that was him being arrogant and boastful that you don't stand a
Mm,
chance of killing me now. When you had just thrown me
yeah,
into lava and cut my limbs off, that's when you should have
yeah,
done it because now I have your ass. And
yeah,
now I'm going to wreck shop on you. And
yeah.
and he did, and he could have continued to do that had Obi-Wan stayed in the mental state that he was in. Because Obi-Wan was not putting up any kind of a good fight that time. He was so disconnected from the Force and didn't have anything going on for him.
Yeah. And maybe that was the point, and kind of what I missed during the moment was that Obi-Wan couldn't have the dialogue with Vader because he was just such a broken character, especially seeing him for the first time. And
Hmm.
again, I thought Ewan McGregor played it well in terms of how utterly almost terrified he was instead of shocked. It
Yeah,
was just more fear out of everything,
yeah.
which is
I
probably a feeling that he has not experienced to the excess that he did, because isn't the whole mantra about Jedis is suppressing the fear and that sort of feeling.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think they feel nearly as much fear as everyone else does because they have so many
Mm.
abilities and powers and everything. So
Yeah,
they're normally on the, I don't want to say arrogant side of things, but they're on the arrogant slash jock side of things, where they normally don't have that kind of fear. Um,
yeah.
yeah, so that made it tough. But actually, with that whole sequence, you mentioned the dialogue stuff. I actually have a clip here that I wanted to play. Um,
Oh, cool.
if I've set this all up right, the clip's gonna flop up over our faces there, and everyone's gonna be able to hear it. So let me know here. It's not too long. So here we go.
What have you become?
I am what you made me.
That
I just, ah,
that right there, as Obi-Wan, if I'm Obi-Wan and I'm hearing that, that's a stab in the heart. That
yeah,
even more so because there might still be some head like, I know that I've done all this to him, but maybe he doesn't really blame me for this. Maybe he was just evil all the time and all, but him coming right out and saying those words is a definite approval of my mental state, and that yes, I did do this to him. I wasn't strong enough. I didn't train him well enough. It
yeah.
could be taken that way, or it could just simply be, I cut your limbs off and left you to die, and so now that's why you're in this suit. But I took it the other way. I took it the emotional and way like that. But it was probably a little of both.
Yeah.
But so that's why like the bits of dialogue that were in there, that one line that we mentioned before, and this one, like
Mm.
I do agree that they didn't do nearly as much gabbing as I thought that they would, but the
Yeah.
gabbing that was there was quality to me. Ooh, Foxface says something. Maybe he was just rotten. Some people are, and there's nothing you can do about it. Exactly. And so that's why, like, Obi-Wan maybe was thinking that, maybe he just couldn't sense how he was deep down evil all this time, and he just needed someone to come along and just tickle it out of him and push him into further into the darkness thing and all. But to
Yeah.
me, when I first heard him say that, I heard it that he blames Obi-Wan for not being able to train him the right way, and not be strong enough to help him fight off the darkness.
I mean, what I was expecting when they first, in terms of dialogue, when they first encounter, I understand the absolute shock horror, because in terms of the time frame, it's less than 24 hours from Obi-Wan finding out he's alive to actually seeing him.
Yeah, yeah.
So I understand Obi-Wan being put into a state of shock and can't really articulate himself, but Vader knows Obi-Wan is alive, and Vader has been searching for Obi-Wan for the past 10 years, and I just feel like Vader would have had so much more to say, like, look at me now, you didn't kill me way back when, blah 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 blah. I've embraced the dark side. You'll never defeat me, kind of thing. And I don't think we got the dialogue from Vader. Again, when we'll talk about, obviously, in episode 6, we get the good dialogue together. But that was when Obi-Wan was carrying that dialogue in a way. Whereas I feel like this should have been Vader's moment where we really, because we haven't heard Vader talk in any sort of great length since the original trilogy, and I just felt like that was Vader's moment to really articulate how much he's changed in the 10 years and how much this moment means to him, that he's finally found Obi-Wan and he's finally going to show him what he's become after being absolutely demolished by him in the previous encounter.
All right, that's cool, because see, I haven't read, I don't know why I haven't read the comics of because I know that there's a couple different Darth Vader lines of comics out there, and one of them is the best. Oh, I should have definitely had it. and he has the best quotes in the comics. But I never got the feeling that he was much of a talker about his feelings. I always got the thought that he always internalized everything, because we always see him pensively looking out over his field of lava at Mustafar, like looking down at the spot where he was rendered limbless. And we always see him like on the bridge looking out at the starfield as they're going through hyperspace, and like he just never seemed to me to be a talker. So I just never thought about it that way, like having the gloating time and all. But I could definitely see where that could be a thing that he would do, and he had every right to do that because he was super duper powerful at that
Well, you know,
time.
Anakin was an arrogant character.
He was.
And maybe I'm just not, like you said, I'm not clued in with Darth Vader lore as much as the next person. So maybe I was still expecting a little bit of Anakin to be molded into this Darth Vader, especially at this phase in his life, where, and again, I think we got a lot more of an arrogant Darth Vader in Episode 6, which didn't make much sense, because I feel, well, maybe it did make sense that Obi-Wan was challenging him a lot more, which meant that he could then say, hey, look, instead of like beating a old dead man, and then bragging about it.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of honor in beating an old broken man.
Yeah,
but if he's able to break Obi-Wan at his highest point, when he's super powerful. Where on the timeline is this show compared to, say, Rogue One? All right, Rogue One is just before Episode 4, and this is almost exactly halfway between Episodes 3 and 4. This is 10 years after Episode 3 and 9 years before Episode 4. So it's like 9 years before Rogue One, essentially. It is also like about 3 or 4 years before Rebels, I believe. I'm sorry you haven't watched it, Foxface. You're getting all the spoilers.
Well, Fox just got access to Disney Plus, so I think she's going to watch it eventually.
Good. Have you seen Mandalorian yet, Fox? If not, good on you, because you get to live all that for the first time, and I'm envious. I love the hell out of it.
See, I loved Mandalorian.
Oh yeah.
And I also just felt like they had the Mandalorian episode, or the Mandalorian show, just so perfect. And I don't know why they couldn't transition it to this show, in my mind, of course. I mean, obviously a lot of people enjoyed it. But yeah, it was a bit of a bizarre one that they got it so right, that show so right in my mind, but not this show right in my mind.
Yeah, I think maybe they specifically didn't want to make the run and gun stuff that made Mandalorian popular that be such a big part of this show. But I feel like they got the lightsaber part of all the fighting very well done, but the gun part, we'll talk about that in Episode 5. Ugh, I have problems with that. I've been a horrible lurker this whole time.
But episode...
So we were on 3, and I definitely think we're going to go over an hour, since it's an hour now, and we're only halfway through.
I mean, I'm fine. Episode 4. So the Inquisitor Reva gets Leia, takes her to the Inquisitor stronghold, and then it's the whole rescue mission.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The rescue mission. That was all in Fortress Inquisitorius, or as everyone's been calling it, the Fallen Order episode.
Yeah.
Did you play Jedi Fallen Order?
I've watched it enough and have played it a little bit to know. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I didn't play it at all, and seeing, like, people were saying how similar it was, and I was like, oh, whatever, it's a thing. But then they went and they showed scenes of the game, and I was like, oh dear, well, they're just doing a whole lot of that. But I'm sorry, I jumped in there. I didn't mean to. Episode 4. What do you dislike about that one?
I think Episode 4 was the weakest episode out of all of them, which was disappointing, because I thought, the excitement of episode 3, even though it was a short episode and I didn't get exactly what I wanted out of it, I thought the excitement levels were there, but it's going to then push it into the next episode. And first of all, we meet new characters who we have no emotional connection to. They say, no, we're not going to help you. And then they help you. And then Obi-Wan going swimming underneath one of the most secure facilities, I'm sure, in the galaxy, and just accessing it with relative ease, I didn't like. I thought it was I'd be interested to know how you feel about this, because you know more about canon and Clone Wars specifically. They teased us. They teased us with the whole, we've got a bunch of Jedis in a state of as trophies. And like, what was that all about?
Well, like, just why were they there?
Yeah.
Well, the Sith are assholes, and
well, were they
but
trophies,
also,
or was it for something more meaningful, like they were cloning them or trying to obtain their Jedi powers?
yeah, I think it all led back to, I forget the name of the project, but the Emperor's cloning project.
Yeah.
For his somehow he returned thing. So that's why I think that they were there. But and no matter what, like it's smart to keep them there suspended that way, because like they were definitely dead. There was no way you were going to bring them back. But it's good to have those bodies there and have those all that data and all that information there, so that if sometime in the future you could somehow go in and suck out midichlorians, revive any good stuff with that. I can understand why they kept it there. I don't know.
I felt like I needed a little bit more information at the time, because I thought to myself, who hasn't watched, who didn't know who most of the characters were who were in these, in this state. But I thought, just give us like a line or two. Give us a line or two what they're doing here, because I find this really interesting that they're hoarding Jedis, and for what reason. And it was obvious that it was for the whole cloning project, but I just felt like it needs, give me 3 lines and that's it.
Well, but see, that it is a really good, it is a really interesting thing, and we want to find out more about it. So maybe they didn't give us 3 lines because they know how TV goes, and if this was received well enough, maybe that's going to be Obi-Wan season 2, going to try and find out about that. And I think that it definitely would have been good if they had given us 3 lines, so we just could have resolved that in our brain. But I also know that like that. That wasn't really important to the story that they were telling right then and there. So I don't know if they should have gone into that, but either like say 3 lines or leave it open for,
or just have him glance at a computer and type a few things and have something pop up which fans can analyze to the 10th degree, and just give us like something like that. That's all I wanted. But
Star Wars,
like you said, they're probably saving it for something else.
Star Wars fans analyzing things a lot, like you mean carved letters in a different language on walls of safe houses? No, they didn't do that kind of stuff. But good.
And then we had the whole Leia torturing scene.
Yeah. What was your personal feelings on that? Because I came down way different than a lot of people.
Yeah, I thought it was weird. The biggest issue I had with it was when Reva, before they started torturing her, Reva was having the conversation with Leia, and Reva, this all-powerful Inquisitor who is able to go see people's minds and read their minds and do all the dark Jedi or dark Sith tricks, couldn't get into a 9-year-old's mind, and that wasn't suspicious to her. Like, obviously, later on in the show, she figures out why, but at that time, there was no, like...
No, she never figures out that Leia's...
Well, no, maybe not. Maybe she only figures out Luke, but
But she only thinks Luke is...
This person is...
Oh, that's true. Hold on, that they're connected.
This person is trained to hunt Jedi and to sense force-sensitive characters, and that is clearly what happened with Leia there when she was like, "Is this a staring contest?" It's like, which was a good line, but it was at the point where I'm thinking Reva's going to have a moment here of realization what's happening, that Obi-Wan is not only hunting this girl because he's a family friend, but he's hunting this girl because she's important. And that moment never happened during the torturing scenes.
Yeah, I could see where that moment could have definitely happened, but maybe I think that she was just too focused on trying to find Obi-Wan that her mind maybe wasn't looking that broadly out at different things to be able to pull in. She was so focused on just trying to get Leia to
maybe
give up where that is. But she definitely knew that she was powerful with the Force. And I'm hopeful that maybe just Reva made a mental note of it, because I way too often, with my ADHD, if I start going down that path, I'm going to get lost quick, and I'm not going to know what the hell I'm doing. So hopefully that was it. But Foxface mentions about something in Twilight that I'm not versed in Twilight at all, so I don't get that reference. Bozz, are you a Twilighter?
What was the quote? Maybe she thought it was like that chick.
Just that Leia was vapid and just didn't have anything in there?
Or how there was something special about Leia. But again, I feel like if she's clocking that there's something special about Leia and the fact that Obi-Wan is hunting her, there's more here than what meets the eye.
Yeah. And they definitely could have gone down that path, but they didn't, because then that would introduce a whole other can of worms.
Yeah. But then again, I feel like that could have led to something a little bit more. Well, the reason why they didn't do that, in my opinion, is because they needed to get Leia out. So because we're at episode 4, they needed to get Leia out of the show before episode 6, so Obi-Wan and Vader could have their one moment.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't go down that route, and obviously Reva finds out about Luke later on. But yeah, I felt like we'll just ignore this for now, just because it'll speed up the story a bit.
Yeah, and you definitely didn't want Reva finding out that Luke and or Leia were Anakin's kids, because if she did, she definitely would have killed Luke. She would have had the strength to go through with it. That if she knew that, I think. But yeah, so
that's interesting.
Yeah, because. Well, all right, hold on. We'll talk about that when we get there.
Yeah, that's the last episode thing.
Yeah. So for Leia, I was being a little mean. Vamps in Twilight couldn't read the female lead character's mind, but she always had this completely blank look on her face. Oh. So the Leia torture scene, for me, it was like nothing for me. All the threats of torture against that little girl and everything, because I just knew deep down, A, that Leia's going to be okay, although I did my best to try and factor that out, but B, that Star Wars was not going to show us a child getting tortured. On or off screen, we weren't going to hear it on there. The best they went was Han getting tortured off screen and him screaming.
Yeah.
They were not going to do that with a little child, let alone Leia.
Yeah.
There was no way that was going to happen. And it was meant to build dramatic tension. And it was also, so many of the threats that Reva made against her was a means of trying to get out of her what was happening. Sometimes with kids, you just got to threaten them with a bad time to get them to move and do what you want. So, but I saw so many people saying that was going too far, what they did. And I was not.
Yeah, no, it's silly. Again, like you said, they were never going to go over the line.
And also with episode 4, I personally got so much joy out of the sneaking Leia out underneath the trench coat bit, that I don't care that it looked ridiculous. I don't care that every stormtrooper on there should have seen that. I was just overjoyed at just the view of that. It was beautiful.
Yeah. And they, to be fair, they did get caught as well.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. But also this right here makes me backtrack for a second back to episode 3, when you were talking about how Vader let Obi-Wan, not let him go, but how Obi-Wan was able to escape so easily.
Yeah.
At that point, at the end of episode 3, I thought he was doing more along the lines what they did in Star Wars, when I thought that he was letting Obi-Wan escape because he was arrogant, and now that he knew where Obi-Wan was, he felt like he would be able to track him, and he was letting him go to try and follow him to where the path was. I thought at that stage they were doing that. So that's why at that time it didn't bother me as much. But now going up to...
But then he came into Reva, choking her, saying, "How did you let her go?" Yeah, it is like we got that really intense moment where Reva was like, "Oh, but I've tracked them. Like I put something on the droid and they're tracking him now." But it's like, yeah, that didn't make any sense that Darth Vader let Obi-Wan go essentially, and yet was so utterly annoyed with Reva when Obi-Wan was then let go in the Inquisitor Tower.
Yeah, and it makes even less sense because just before that, just before the choking and all that, like he says that Kenobi is the only thing that matters. And she says Kenobi is the only thing that matters, but I let Kenobi go so that we could track to the thing, but Kenobi's the only thing that matters. That is definitely a big, that's the only big giant red X I have on this show. That whole sequence. But I was willing to be like, oh, okay, one big X is bad, but yeah.
And then I also didn't like it how we get the rescue with the cruisers and Reva is like knocking off bloody shots from ships with her lightsaber, which I don't think is entirely possible. But we get the death of that random character, and then they all get onto the cruiser ship and they all have a moment which literally lasts about 2 minutes where they're all sitting down, solemn over a character we have no emotional connection with. And again, it's just revert back to filler, and this is why I got really annoyed with episode 4. That episode was literally 32 minutes long, and they wasted 2 minutes of it grieving over a character we didn't even know the name of, let alone had any emotional connection to. And it's just like, why aren't you giving us a little bit of information about what's going on with the Frozen Jedis? Or why aren't you giving us a little bit of information where Reva is clocking that Leia is force sensitive? And it just all compacted into a moment where I was like, I don't think I could watch the rest of this show. I was honestly at that point where I was so frustrated what was going on. Obviously, I'm glad I continued because the next episode got a lot better.
Yeah, I definitely felt a disconnect between how much they were trying to make us feel bad for Wade and how I had absolutely no feelings for Wade. How I was making jokes that, well, Wade will have to wade back to shore if he survived that crash. But yeah, so I definitely do agree that was bad. Episode 5 starts off with them coming back in that cruiser that they had and landing. And the part that I found funny was Roken comes off that ship and says, "We got them," or "We got her." As they're walking down, I was like, Roken, you were just like back in this cruiser, like real far away, and had like nothing to fear, or nothing to worry about. So I was like, you're being pretty ballsy there, saying we got. But later on, he did come back, and it became obvious that he was the leader, and he was saying it in the royal we end of things. And a side note, did you know that character is Ice Cube's son?
Oh yeah. Because he's been in quite a few things.
I didn't know that. I was like, he looks so familiar to me for some reason, and when I found that out, I was like, aha. And
well, he played. Please
say something I've never watched.
he played Ice Cube in the. He played his father in the biopic of the Compton movie. What's it called? Straight Out of Compton.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's smart casting.
Yeah.
And I can totally see it. But the other thing is that I love his name because his name is one letter away from the word broken. That they made his name that. I enjoyed that. And I did also feel like you said before, that his character like came around way too quick. Of like demonstrating like how upset he was before when he first got asked, and it seemed like within the same conversation and just a little bit of meandering, he got to the point where it was okay. But I mean, we know that Obi-Wan had to have some little bits of help from people, otherwise this wasn't going to happen.
But I did like some of his dialogue because he referred to Obi-Wan as General, which was really interesting because obviously the only people who really do that were those involved in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, or someone trying to show respect to someone that they knew had lots of work in the Clone Wars, and so either ends of that is good. That was good, and I did definitely like his character. His character definitely grew on me, and especially the thing he did in the last episode where he came out and was like, "Oh, don't worry, we almost have everything fixed, and we'll be testing in no time," and all. And he's like, "We're not going there. We're not going to make that." But yeah, so episode 5.
Episode 5 was just so different. It was fast paced. It was amazing character arcs. All the characters had a moment. Obviously, we got the death of what was her name?
Episode 5. Oh, Tala.
Yes. That was interesting. That was good. We obviously got Reva's character arc finally. And then we had Darth Vader demonstrating some of the most badassery out of any Star Wars moment ever.
Yeah, that was awesome. It was awesome enough when he grabbed the ship and pulled it down, but then when he rent it open, it was that was definitely
the only thing I was upset about that watching it a second time was there's no second ship in the background, because you know how like he pulls the ship down, rips it apart, and then another ship just takes off from behind. If you go back and watch it, there's no second ship behind.
You sure
and
about that?
So it looks like they come out of nowhere
when he's actually pulling them down.
So he pulls down a ship which has nobody in it, which is clearly like armed by or driven by some droids, and then they have a second ship with everybody on it behind it, escaping. So when the first ship is taking off and he uses the power to hold it in place, there's no second ship in the background of that shot where all the characters are in.
Yeah, that's weird because in the shots before that, hey, Lycian's here, hello. He was here before. Sorry. Another good moment of Darth Vader. Yeah. Earlier though, they did show where there was a second ship before that escape sequence, and I went back and I looked, and it was weird that everyone was just kind of gathered around until the end and then boarded the ships. It should have been where they were waiting on the ship and
actually there.
And anyone that didn't have a weapon should have been in there. But they had that moment that everyone was like, all right, let's get on the ships. And if you go back and look, it does look more obvious that all those people are headed towards that second background ship. So that stinks,
which is fine. I just wanted the ship there. But again, that's nitpicking. It was an amazing moment.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very good. I enjoyed that as well, and I enjoyed the fact that theoretically that took up a lot of his mojo, and that's when Reva decided to launch her attack, like she did,
which was interesting because essentially Obi-Wan was sacrificing Reva, because he went to Reva and said, "We'll defeat him together." And then he jets off in the ship, leaving Reva to fight Darth Vader alone.
Oh, so you took that as that like they were going to fight him together?
Yeah, well that's what was my understanding is, he was like, I can't defeat him, but we can, kind of thing. And I was at first thinking okay, the ship's gonna go off and Vader's gonna leave the ship because Obi-Wan's gonna be right in front of him. So he's like, I'm not focusing on the ship. Screw that. I'm focusing on Obi-Wan. Whereas, and then Reva would appear behind him, and it'll be like a 2 versus 1 deal. But that's what I thought was I preferred what did happen, and that Obi-Wan showed a little bit of, maybe not so much of a Jedi in him, and almost sacrificed Reva.
See, I always got, to me, I had the vibe that they would work together, and like he said, that he would get Vader there and get him as weak as he could with the end of things. But I didn't think Reva would want to fight Vader with him, because Reva, this was Reva's revenge that she wanted, and she didn't want any help. Like, she made a point of saying how much she did so much on her own, because like all her family had been killed, and how she had done all this already on her own. I didn't feel like she would want to team up like actively in a fight against Darth Vader.
I thought,
so I didn't think that.
The reason why Reva hadn't fought Vader before is because she knew she wouldn't stand a chance.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that this is the moment, because she has assistance, kind of thing. I mean, again, what you're saying makes complete sense. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah, maybe if they hadn't fixed the ship, Obi-Wan would have fought him first and probably gotten killed, but Darth Vader probably would have been weakened enough then at that point that she would have been able to take him one-on-one in a fight. So yeah, maybe he did. Wow, Obi-Wan leaving Reva behind like that. But I guess Reva still gambled and thought that she had enough mojo with her.
Yeah,
but that was
and
was
then
just...
so because you were saying that you didn't think of the character arc, that moment where she confesses to Obi-Wan like her true identity and her true plan, what was that moment like for you? Was that like, okay, I see it now, I'm happy with it?
Well, I had gotten, because I read a lot of stuff online, and other people knew, just like you did, that she was not new, but surmised that she was that one. And so by then I did have that figured out, that she was there, but I didn't know if she was still, like, it was still possible that she was either still on Vader's side and just wanted to kill all the Jedi that she could, or that she was hunting Vader and doing that. So I didn't know which side she was going on, but I definitely I like the execution of her reveal to Obi-Wan what was happening, and I was very glad to get all that explicitly stated there. But yeah, so it wasn't that moment that I realized that she was that little girl. But when I did put that all together and like realize it was like, oh, those bastards, and then you have to go back and watch the first segment. She's the first character you see at all. Like, she's the first one that you pull by, and I'm like, damn, I'm gonna have to watch everything with a much closer eye. From now on. But hey, Lacey's here. Hello, Lazy. But yeah,
I liked her dialogue. I liked her arc. I thought. Because it was written by someone else, wasn't it? I think it was Andrew Stanton, who didn't come in until the final 2 episodes. And for those that don't know who Andrew Stanton is, he's big in the Pixar world. And if anybody, want to talk about script writing and storytelling, you look at people who work at Pixar, because they're just absolute geniuses. So I think he came in late and gave it a good old kick up the backside and really put some effort into the story arcs of these characters, because it needed it at that point where we're almost finished. We only got 2 episodes left. We need to start wrapping up or really not only wrapping up, but unveiling the true identities of various characters. And I thought they just smashed it. They did really well on that episode. I adored it.
Yeah, that was really good. You say he's a Pixar writer, and yeah, they do definitely do storytelling awesomely, but this was very violent storytelling for a Pixar writer. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's the way Darth Vader every movement of Darth Vader was interesting, just because he was so comfortable and facing Reva that it was almost pathetic.
Oh yeah,
in a way.
I felt bad for her. I mean, beyond getting stabbed, I felt bad for her before she was even stabbed. He was just
And
playing
also,
with her.
something we didn't even mention is the first shot of that episode 5 was a flashback.
Oh yeah, the flashbacks.
got-
We didn't talk about that at all.
And I know that was on a lot of people's wish lists that we would get not only like just small flashbacks like that, but Clone Wars flashbacks. But that was nice. I liked it. First time like really seeing Hayden Christensen.
Yeah, it was good. I wish they had de-aged his face more.
Oh yes, that was ridiculous. I don't know what they were thinking. He looked like 40 years old.
Yeah,
And he's meant to be in like his 20s.
The only thing I did hear one really good theory about that is all those flashbacks were either Obi-Wan's memories or Anakin's memories. And since they're both older now, you tend to like modify your memories a little bit with how the current situation is. And also you remember things differently, because the biggest thing that stood out for those flashbacks for me was Anakin standing there looking out across the way, again being introspective and just looking out, and there were no other ships flying around anywhere. And so often whenever I think about Coruscant, I think about other ships flying around. And whoever was doing this analysis was saying how in that memory, nothing else out there mattered. The only thing that mattered in his memory was his fight there with Obi-Wan and his training there with Obi-Wan.
And maybe the thought that he was more mature than he actually was at the time.
Mm-hmm. Or like and he was getting his own mental image of what he would look like now, then, so, but no matter what, I still wish they would have done
it still looked a little bit weird.
Yeah, but I love the way that they tied it to the episode and how they like stepped through the episode and showed each little thing, and how Obi-Wan knew how Vader would react and how Vader knew what he thought he knew about how Obi-Wan was going to go and how he used that against him.
And how he would play him like that, yeah.
I think it was Obi-Wan's flashbacks. Vader had fully taken over by then. I don't know. Vader had fully taken over by then, but he still had Anakin's memories and everything. I don't know. That's too deep mental talk for me. I was talking about Lazy Bones' comment in there, in the chat. So, all right, so we couldn't go past that in episode 5 because that was real big, because so many people were looking forward to that, and whereas I mean, I did like seeing it, but I didn't necessarily need that. I wasn't a big fan of the prequels myself, because I'm more the OG generation. But now I definitely have a better appreciation for them than I did before. Definitely. I feel bad about the way the fandom treated Hayden Christensen back then.
I also think it's noteworthy to point out that in that episode 5, and in episode 6, we got the best lightsaber choreography since episode 3. Or not episode 3, movie 3. What's it called? Revenge of the Sith.
The fight in the flashback.
Yeah.
Well,
I just thought it was nice to see, especially after, the whole Rise of Skywalker ordeal, where the lightsaber dueling was just so subpar in terms of what we expected.
I guess. Well, all right. The episode 1 Maul Obi-Wan fight, for me, I know a ton of people like the Revenge of the Sith one, but for me, that one's my
That's
pinnacle.
always going to be the peak. Yeah, 100%.
And I know that 90% of that is the music that went with it, but fuck it, it's that whole thing was fantastic.
That's another thing about the show, is where was the good music? We didn't get any moments of like epic music.
Yeah, there wasn't epic music that like came in at the time. There definitely wasn't a Duel of the Fates, but John Williams had music in there.
Yeah, I mean, but I just don't think any of it was memorable. Like, it's Star Wars, right? You got John Williams back out of retirement to do this TV show, and I feel like that was a massive missed opportunity.
Maybe we're maybe a little bit too used to the massive good stuff
The
now.
epicness.
Yeah,
Yeah,
now that
true,
we've had it.
true. Yeah,
Let's see,
you might be right. I was like, there's not even any moments though in terms of music that I can draw from that show where I was like, oh, this is great. The music is lifting, the moment up.
Yeah, there weren't moments of that. There were definitely moments of when the theme came in and I felt it, and it did add a little bit of something for me. But there definitely weren't times of when like yeah, just like Duel of the Fates. There wasn't a moment like that. Lacey says there's a video that shows the enter flashback practice scene, so it looks much better. Like it's edited and cut out. Oh, where they take just the flashbacks and edit it all together. I got it. At least I think so. Just Vader's music at the end. That's it. Yeah. Well, Vader's music is always going to be dope.
So we had Leia go off. Leia went home. Obi-Wan got into a ship, basically sacrificing himself, going to a nearby planet and drawing Darth Vader out.
Yeah. Now, one of my other almost red X's is I don't understand how travel or distances work in the Star Wars universe. Because hey, Denki, Frankie, welcome in. Spoilers, so don't be upset. The end of the last episode ended up with Reva injured badly on that planet, and the good guys fleeing the planet, and Vader still on the planet. So Vader had to get back to his ship, and they're in pursuit, and she's already on Tatooine at the beginning of episode 6. Now I am perfectly willing to let go of the how she survived and everything, because obviously, and the part that I really liked was that they demonstrated that he stabbed her in the same spot. So Anakin Vader definitely remembers her because he wounded her in the exact same spot. So and even that part there makes a scene earlier that screwed with my head a little bit better, because do you remember the scene in the third episode when Reva walks into the other two Inquisitors in their fortress and she's saying they're on this planet at the end of the thing, and the fifth brother, I think it's called, went and like made her prone on the table for a second and used the force and forth. As soon as he let her up, she like grabbed at her side there a little bit, and they even like zoomed in on her hand there. And I was like, that means something, but they gave us absolutely zero context for it at the time. And that kind of drove me a little bit wild, because it was good that they did something that planted a seed that early, but there needed to be a teensy bit of something around it for me. But
I
again,
feel like that sort of content is more for second viewing purposes. Like, you'll watch the episode again and be more aware of why they're showing you that shot. It's a common trick to keep people a little bit more entertained in a second viewing after you've already completed the TV show, and you just notice things a lot more. And then you think to yourself, oh, how did I miss that first time? And what else did I miss? Kind of thing. So it keeps the brain a little bit more active.
Oh, that's cool. I never knew that they did that like purposefully. I always thought that was just a bad viewer.
No.
Right,
now you can give yourself a little bit
more leeway. All right, cool. All right, cool. So sorry, I all right. So we're back to episode 6 now, right? We're all done with 5 now. All right, so 6. Go for it.
Yeah, it was a little bit cheesy on episode 5 where he's like dropped the token or the message thing, and Reva finds it and is like, oh, here's the exact location of Darth Vader's son, or like the other child, and it's just like, oh, well, that's awfully convenient.
Yeah. Yeah, and it kind of sucks. And they even had the scene in there, and it was so obvious that he was dropping that.
Yeah, of course.
Well, like if they had shown him running and he dropped everything out of his hands and picked stuff up, but we didn't know it was there. Yeah, hey Mars. Sorry, I thought you really came and went. Yeah, this will definitely be on a VOD on here, and I'm actually going to upload it to my YouTube channel. Which theoretically, hopefully, just came up in the chat there, so you can click on that and subscribe. I'm trying to resurrect my YouTube channel, so it'll be there too. Oh, see, Lazy mentioned heard it's gonna be on YouTube. Yeah, so but Mars wasn't gonna be hanging around because they don't want to get spoilers.
But yeah, again, the big thing I didn't like about Episode 6 was the time framing. We had. We'll go into Darth Vader's final showdown with Obi-Wan, but that happened at the same time that Reva was already on Tatooine, and then they have their battle, and Obi-Wan is able to get from there to Tatooine to be there at the precise moment that Reva brings back Luke. I didn't really see how that all calculated.
Yeah, I think that they did a little bit of a time switcheroo for the viewers and for them to be able to break up the story better.
Yeah.
So, because I think like all the Darth Vader stuff and everything happened sooner.
Way before.
Yeah, when Obi-Wan was leaving the planet and he felt that disturbance in the Force thing was probably when like Reva first showed up on Tatooine. And then they had all those hours of her tracking down where the farm is.
Yeah.
And that would give him time to get there too. But
yeah,
I wish they had done some better way of showing that. But then again,
well, I thought it was. I love the final showdown between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
like I thought the dialogue was great. I thought the lightsaber battling was fine. When Obi-Wan was trapped under the rocks.
Mm-hmm.
And using the Force to basically keep himself alive, that's when I was expecting we're getting Qui-Gon now.
Yeah.
We'll have a little bit of dialogue between him and Qui-Gon. That's what I really wanted. Like, I wasn't satisfied with the end scene with Qui-Gon, but
yeah,
I'm glad he was in it, don't get me wrong, but from episode 1, he'd been chatting about it, and we wanted that moment of real dialogue between the two. At least I did. Wanted that real moment where they just talked for a bit. Like, give them 5 minutes of pure dialogue where Qui-Gon is almost reassuring him, and this is how it had to be, blah blah blah. You could have gone in any direction with the dialogue. I just wanted that moment to bring Obi-Wan back to his full strength.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, that was the moment where he had a few flashbacks or a few moments where he remembered like Leia and like protecting Leia and a few things, and that's what brought it back, which didn't really do it for me. I would have preferred the moment with Qui-Gon, so really to return his strength. But again, it is what it is.
Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely felt that Qui-Gon being there at that time would have been way more impactful. And would have been a better way to show it. Like instead of him having to constantly hold everything up there, like he could have just had everything settle into place, and then he could have just had a moment where he just like collapsed in on himself and was just huffing and puffing.
Yeah.
But what they did do though, I liked that when it started out and he was down there holding up stuff, he was having all the negative flashbacks and remembering what happened to Anakin. And then at least they did transition it over to the good that he's done then, and also in a way that was him being reminded what he was still fighting for, and that he still had a reason to go on. So while I would have rather had Qui-Gon, I did appreciate what they did do with that, showing him like almost slipping back for a few moments into what he was, but he was like, no, I'm not doing that again. So I also
don't think that Darth Vader would have just left it like that, like not knowing if Obi-Wan was actually dead. I feel like Darth Vader would have preferred the moment to kill him with a lightsaber instead of crushing him with a bunch of rocks.
Yeah, that, or like you say, like proof of death beyond just throwing a bunch of rocks on him. Yeah, that part I agree was a little bit weak, but it gave us the cool moment of him blasting his way out of there.
True.
Personally, though, when Vader smashed the Earth there and the giant hole opened and he crushed into it, and Vader went to the edge of that precipice and all, you were screaming at the TV.
Ground.
Yeah, you were screaming at it, right? We all were. And then, but then he did kind of make it back by him actually throwing the high ground onto Obi-Wan. He was like, here, you want high ground? Here, have a little bit of high ground here. So that was good, but because it
was a good moment.
Yeah. I mean, he was so high ground too. You're like looking up at him and he was just so high up there. But yeah, Obi-Wan coming out of that hole there, he was already showing a lot of his powers from before and a lot of comeback. And of course, when he did that little pose, the pose there with that was beautiful in a moment. But when he came up out of that hole, oh boy, he tapped into something I hadn't seen Obi-Wan have. I don't think I've ever seen Obi-Wan be that powerful before.
Well, it was interesting as well, Darth Vader's fighting. I usually don't psychoanalyze these kind of things, but I notice, Darth Vader is the guy who fights with one hand. Yet throughout that entire fight, he was holding it with both hands, and I thought that was really interesting. Right
from the get-go of the fight, or after Obi-Wan?
Well, maybe not like the first couple swings, but he quickly almost reverts back to Anakin's fighting stance because he's fighting his old master almost. Again, I feel like there's a bunch of meaning you can take for the way he changed up his fighting just for that moment.
Yeah, holding it two-handed like that is a more defensive posture about it, and holding it one-handed, because like people pointed out about how Obi-Wan was all two-handed fighting during the first encounter. He was not letting go. And
the episode previous where he was fighting Reva, and it didn't even seem like he was putting any effort into it. Compared to him, you really like looking like he was using his entire strength.
Yeah, I love when he fought Reva. He didn't even pull his own blade out. He was like, "I'll just take yours and split this. Here you go." That was badass. And in this one, Obi-Wan's feeling so good about himself, he's flipping his lightsaber around behind his back. When he did that, I was like, all right, now you're just showing off.
Do you know why he did that?
Oh, why?
He did the flip around his back. That's Anakin's move.
Really?
Anakin does that 3 times. He even does it in the previous episode's training sequence or the flashback.
Ah, cool.
He does that move where he flips it around his back. But he does it twice in the previous movies. And once in that, so he really was almost kind of not mocking him, but he basically saying that I've learned, your style almost.
Oh well, yeah. There's lots of people that love dissecting the combat styles there, and I just don't have an eye for that kind of detail when things move that fast. So that's cool. Thanks for pointing that out. That's awesome. But yeah, there was and I was so glad to see. Now, I have such a bad eye for noticing combat stuff. When Obi-Wan damaged his breather apparatus on his chest, he was using the butt end of his lightsaber, right?
I didn't notice that.
I thought that he was just wailing on it with the physical butt end of the saber and not any part of the blade part. And I was like, damn, he's just wrecking some shop on there. And
that was interesting because I think we all expected at some point to like see a glimpse of Darth Vader Anakin. I thought it was going to be a moment where Darth Vader was so confident of defeating him he would take off his helmet for a brief period of time for some dialogue. But in a way, I kind of preferred this moment where we only got half the face. In fact, there was a meaning behind it. So there was I think it was Clone Wars.
Rebels.
Or yeah,
It was.
or was it
Rebels.
Rebels?
Yeah.
Where Ahsoka smashes his one
right
of the sides
side.
of his face.
Yeah.
So it was the opposite side. So essentially, Ahsoka smashed one side, Obi-Wan smashed the other, and the only person who could actually take the helmet off was Luke Skywalker.
Yeah. I did
So
like that.
The symbolism
analysis.
there was really nice.
Yeah. Plus, even before that symbolism, it's just such a good effect, and like they did it so well in Rebels. When I first saw them do it here, I was like, oh, they're just lifting it from Rebels and showing it. But then when they came through with that analysis, now I'd love to know, that's good analysis and it's good thought, and I can totally see where it is. But I wonder if the writers are like, oh yeah, we totally meant that to happen. And so it's either that was their intention, or they did just swipe it from there. Because like right after that happened, I was like, man, they just stole that sequence from Rebels, and they stole a lot of the stuff in Fortress Inquisitorius from the game there.
I can tell you from experience, if you think fans psychoanalyze details like that, you have no idea what production does. They go all in, so everything has meaning, and they 100% would mean something like that.
All right, cool. Yeah, I can definitely see that being something for a lot of shows. I didn't know how widespread it is across everything and all. But if you tell me that virtually all of them do that, then that's extra awesome then. And
yeah.
But yeah, that was, and the move that he used to do that, I'd never seen. Like he leapt point first with his lightsaber. I was like, Jesus, he's doing all kinds of stuff I'd never seen. And him hurling those glass boulders at him like that. That was a move.
There was, I mean, we got the Anakin voice as well, which was good. We had the whole shading, the light shading, the blue side, or the blue tint of the light from the blue lightsaber on his face when he was talking as Anakin, and then the red when he was talking as Darth Vader.
Yeah. Well, it was. Yeah, like it started at blue in that scene.
Yeah. Well, when it was blue, he was saying, "It's not your fault. It's not your fault that I'm Darth Vader. I killed Darth Vader," which was, I think, someone I saw say, it's the nicest thing Darth Vader has ever said to anyone, which is
nice.
Well, apart from until like Luke obviously comes around, but at that point, that was like the last moment we ever hear of Anakin before he actually becomes Anakin Skywalker again. And then the red shade saying,
"Yeah, I like that.
I will destroy you," kind of thing.
I like that so much. I went and I made this GIF right here, and yes, I pronounced it that way, where
there you go.
It just bounces back and forth like that. That's good stuff.
But yeah, all of that sort of stuff is done in post production. So you better believe that they're meaning every color of it.
Yeah, and all that post production work was so much more immersive this time because of how you could see like the reflections in Vader's helmet now more closely matched everything, where they just didn't have the technology to do it before. But now that we do, and you can see the lightsaber reflected in his helmet and the full circle of the environment around him and all, it really made things just that much better.
There was also an interesting thing which I don't necessarily understand because I'm not clued into the deeper lore, but he didn't have Sith eyes, apparently.
Didn't he at one point in that have Sith eyes? I
think like when he's talking as Anakin, he has Anakin's brown eyes, and then it kind of morphs back into the Sith. So yeah, maybe.
So maybe Anakin was trying to force his way out there. He definitely didn't have
just a little glimpse that he is still in there, kind of thing.
Yeah,
just deep down. And
then we get to the point where Obi-Wan just walks away, and I don't understand exactly why. I got no explanation for, like, I mean, I know that he has to walk away because Vader still has to live, but I don't know what Obi-Wan's reasoning is for walking away from him right there.
Or leaving him alive, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe because he was just so overwhelmed at talking to Anakin for the first time in 10 years or 9 years.
Yeah.
Possibly, I don't know. I agree with you. It was a little bit like, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
or
you
just
know,
not wanting to kill the body of his friend. At least if this guy's
but then
insisting.
he fully acknowledges, because he calls him Darth. You know, he fully acknowledges that Anakin is dead in his mind. So,
Yeah, but
it's
yeah,
there's no real reason he should have walked off.
yeah. There's no good reason for that. I wish they had and him explicitly state some kind of reason, but nothing in that dialogue was like, yeah, this is why he did that and all. Never heard of Sith eyes?
Yeah.
The yellowish, reddish eye thing there that goes on Fox. Fox knows about the eyes, but yeah, that was good, and I was worn out after that fight there. That was a good fight.
Yeah. And then they had I'm gonna say goodbye to Leia kind of thing, which I didn't really like.
Well, we had Reva in there first.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that was interesting. I was half expecting Reva and Obi-Wan to have a showdown, but maybe that would have been too much for one episode. Yeah, like, so you think that Reva didn't kill Luke because she didn't realize that she just couldn't kill Kid, but you were under the impression that she didn't know that Luke was Darth Vader's son.
Yeah, I don't think she knew that Luke was Darth Vader's son. I think that she knew that Luke had a connection to Leia. A better connection than them just being kids and all. But I don't think that she put it together to Anakin at all. And I think that she just saw just a kid there that didn't do anything to deserve this, and she would have been killing Luke just to make Obi-Wan hurt, because she knew that this kid was important to Obi-Wan in some way, and she's just not that evil.
See, I was under the impression that she did know that the kids were Anakin's, but at the same time just couldn't kill another child.
Well, she's a lot stronger than if that's true. If she knew that it was Anakin's kid, then I give her credit.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it again to see if we get some sort of clue into that moment that can or cannot confirm that was the case.
Yeah, but no matter what, I am glad that she got to that decision and everything by herself. I'm glad that there wasn't she didn't have to encounter Obi-Wan. But also, hold on, we're not going to let this go without giving kudos to Beru and Lars, because they were a couple badasses in this episode.
Yes,
even though they were completely ineffective, they were still badass of defending it, and I feel bad for them now. Whereas before, they just seemed terrible characters, like in the OG at least.
And it makes, actually, I was thinking about when they got killed in the original movies. Now it makes it a lot worse because we have a little bit more. Yeah, we've seen how they defended Luke.
Yeah. So it makes it hurt more. But we know that they didn't pan out far enough, because we know they took a couple stormtroopers with them. They didn't. Yeah, they didn't go down like terrible. And
they
Fox,
pulled it out.
Yeah, Fox mentions down in the chat, why didn't anyone notice Palpatine? Because you can hide your Sith eyes if you're trying to get by and conquer the universe and all. And Palpatine was super powerful, so he could hide that. But Vader didn't have any reason to try and hide his eyes as a matter of deception. It was just his natural being.
See his eyes
through. Yeah. But so Owen and Beru defended Luke. Luke ran away. I really wanted to hear him whine more in the episode. It just would have done my heart good, but he didn't. But he ran away, and they found a way to have him be unconscious while she's through just about everything with Reva, and he never sees a lightsaber lit up, which makes all his not knowing what a lightsaber is later still kosher and everything. So that was good. We later on, I'll talk about that later. But so now we can get back to your Leia thing. I just didn't want to skip past the Reva stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had a problem from the get-go with Leia that the whole A New Hope message and how she didn't know who Obi-Wan was. She just knew that she was a friend of the father who helped them in the Clone Wars, fought with them in the Clone Wars. And that kind of, I think you mentioned it earlier that they wiggled with canon with that and that was okay. I feel like, especially during the earlier episodes, I was thinking, okay, if Leia's going to be in this, we need to make sure that she doesn't know the name Obi-Wan Kenobi. And just like call him Ben for the entirety of him and Leia's story arc. But that never happened. And the fact that he then goes back to see Leia and thank her and all that, or like she thanks him, and I don't know.
Well, do you want me to make you feel a little bit better about it?
Sure.
All right. So the first thing is in episode 4, she has no good reason to call him Ben Kenobi when she gets rescued. If she doesn't know him at all. Because she references him as Obi-Wan in the message, but then later on when Luke comes in and rescues her, Ben Kenobi, where? And also, so now at least they show a reason for that connection. But if you go back and listen to, because I went back and I listened to her message. Her message is a very diplomat-sounding message. It was addressed to General Kenobi. Years ago, you served my father in the Clone Wars, and he asked you to serve again. So we know that also she goes off to try and become a senator, and she becomes a diplomat. So she was still like in that mode, trying to get him to help. And also the thing that I did like is right at the end of them meeting again together, he warned her to keep like their relationship a secret from people, and like to keep him a secret.
I did notice that.
So in a way, she could have still been focused on that, and also
in A New Hope, when Kenobi dies, I feel like they would have redone it now, where she would have had a moment, maybe talking to Luke, saying, "I actually knew him," blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
So obviously you can't go back in time and change that movie, but yeah.
Yeah, I wish we could, because then that would be much more impactful. But also, I don't know, maybe she wouldn't have, because she was all super business. The biggest hit I have against Leia and everything is in episode 4 when they get back to I can't remember the name of the base, Yavin. When they get back to Yavin and they're like, "Leia, we're so sorry about your homeworld." Oh yeah, there's no time for that. We'll have time for our sorrows later, and she just skips right on and all. So
fair enough. That's a good point.
She seems a little bit, but yeah, I wish that they had. In a way, I wish they would have limited their contact more to make that kosher. But that relationship there was a very cool relationship to see, and it does explain way more why she named her kid Ben.
Yes, it does.
So I like,
and that's why I was thinking, just keep him as Ben. You don't have to call him Obi-Wan. You just keep him as Ben, and everything will be fine. But then there was the moment where, like, she fully acknowledged that he was Obi-Wan Kenobi, and that was it wasn't a big thing for me, but it was just another small thing in the overall story arc, which was like, they could have simplified this in such a better way, and then just focus more on the dialogue and the emotion of the moment and the series. But again, it was an avenue that they went down, and there's not much I can do about it.
yeah. So, well, sorry you didn't like it as much as I did, but
I'm excited for season 2.
Nice.
I mean, again, the final 2 episodes showed that they could do it, and they could satisfy what I was looking for. So, And maybe this is what happened. Again, I talk a lot with my colleagues about it. Maybe very early on during the edit, they realized that we're probably going to do a season 2. And that's why they shortened the episodes, and they shortened the story, and they simplified the story to or maybe I don't even think they simplified the story. I think they overcomplicated the story. But I think there was conversations had where they'll say we'll save some of this for a sequel show.
Okay, maybe they did. Yeah, because Ewan McGregor has made it clear that he's all for doing more.
Yeah, I don't think they'll have the Vader versus Obi-Wan again. I think that might be done.
Yeah, I think
I know Vader's coming back for Ahsoka, right?
Is he? Well, yeah, but I don't know what they're doing with Ahsoka, because like I've heard that that's supposed to be a lot of flashbacks and current time stuff.
Okay, but maybe if it is flashbacks, I'm not sure. I know I've seen a few leaked. Again, I'm not gonna. That's definitely something I'm not gonna spoil. We can always have a conversation about that. I've seen some leaked images around Ahsoka. Again, I'm not hugely emotionally connected with Ahsoka because I've never seen the Clone Wars, but some of the pictures look interesting, is all I'll say.
Cool. Well, I would definitely recommend, if you have time and if animation doesn't bother you, the Clone Wars series tells a lot of really good stories, and Rebels is really, really good, just plain old on its own, and so I really enjoyed Rebels a lot, and it was cool for Rebels. They tied in some of the stuff in the movies later on, like you get to see one of the droids and one of the ships from Rebels in the last 3 movies, so that was enjoyable. I definitely recommend that if you find yourself a dearth of stuff to watch. Not that you can in this day and age, but yeah. All right, so we're both looking forward to season 2. Or would you watch a show centered around Reva and how she goes about?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we can both agree that we'd be probably more interested in a Darth Vader TV show.
Oh God! Oh my! Oh.
I think Reva is interesting enough to let's see what happens. I don't know if Reva can hold her own TV show, or she should be in something else. Like maybe the season 2 of Obi-Wan could be him and Reva going off and doing some stuff, possibly. Again, we never really saw what happened to Reva after her moment of, becoming or shaking the dark side in a way. I mean, I still think she has some demons. So maybe like her being a part of another TV show when we'll see more character arc from here. But I'd probably watch it. Again, I'd watch all Star Wars content.
Yeah, just about. I would. I would definitely like. Yeah, a Darth Vader series is my number one. My biggest want. Because I love that guy. Lazy Bones says, I think they will go on to have a full-on Ahsoka. What do you mean by that there, Lazy? That one was a little bit confusing. I'm sorry. And he says, Darth Vader show, that's going to be a hard nut to crack. I know that Hayden Christensen would do it. And if he does it and there's money for it, I can't see them not doing one. Because he is such a good character, and the only thing that I could see them not wanting to do that is for the fear of the backlash that they got with what they did with Boba Fett. But I don't see them changing Darth Vader at all, like they did change the conceptions of Boba Fett so much.
I guess the question is, what would the story be if it was Darth Vader? Like, what would be the main catalyst for him to have her own show?
Well, they have a lot of comic book runs where they tell interesting stories, and so them adapting any of those would be good. And now I've decided that I'm going to have to go and invest in some of those programs where I can go and watch and look them up digitally. Full show starring her. Oh yeah, there's going to be a full on Ahsoka series that's been shooting and everything. But it's just I don't know what the premise for it's going to be. Like I don't know what time period it's going to be, or if it's going to be broken up over different time periods. Yeah, because Bozz is Buzz has all the footage for the show, and he's going to air it on his Discord after this.
If only. Make my lunches a lot more interesting to watch that sort of stuff.
Totally. All right. Well, that was a lot of fun. Did we hit everything you wanted to get to?
Yeah, I think it's just important to state that although it didn't meet my expectations, especially the final 2 episodes, redeemed it to a certain degree. And I'm fully on board for a second season. I know a lot of people were like, oh, they're just milking it now. But I genuinely just feel like there's more story to tell with Obi-Wan that they didn't get finished in this show. So, again, I'm not one of these people who's like, oh, I'm not going to watch it because it should be over. Like, they promised, they said 1 season and that would be it. And now they're just milking it. But I'm not that kind of person. Give me all the Obi-Wan Kenobi you can get, because again, I love the characters, I love the performances. I just want a little bit of a better script next time around.
Can someone ban Lazy Bones from my chat for that comment?
What did he say?
They're blue milking it. Boo, but well done, but boo. All right. So we are wrapping up, and I am going to, I believe that Porter Hawk is next up on the raid train for 8-bit, right? So I'm going to get things ready for us to be able to go on over and visit with Porter Hawk. They are an awesome food streamer and have lots of fun stuff going on. Let me see if I can type things in here properly. The raid has been created. Yes. Well, Bozz, thank you so much. Here, I will.
No worries. I'll see you after season 2.
Yeah, well, hopefully before that. But yeah. I might be trying to put together something. Did you have? Were you going to be watching Andor when that comes on?
Oh, is that a TV show or a movie?
No, it's going to be a TV show.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It starts in late August.
Yeah.
I might be trying to
definitely view it.
I might be trying to put together something like a weekly show on that one. So I don't know if you'll be
interesting. Yeah, that'll be fun.
Week, but